those companies.
Sorry.
To Lowe's Companies and Tabitha Watson, who is the Supplier Diversity Manager for Lowe's, as well as a board member of NAVOBA's. And then I'd also like to thank our committee board members, Georgia Marsh from the WBDC and Hazel Beck, the director at SoCal Veterans Business Outreach Center, for putting this program together. And a special thank you to our veteran businesses on the panel and our corporate panelist, Rebecca Aguilera Gardner, who is our special guest from VIB Network today. And especially thank you to all of our veterans for your service. We really appreciate you all. And I would just ask if you could please keep your microphones muted, and comments, questions, any remarks you'd like to make, please keep it in the chat. And now I'd like to welcome Matt Pavlik, our President and CEO of NAVOBA.
All right. Well, thank you, Mimi. And thank you for everybody that's here today. Thank you for our partner organizations, our board members, and all of our veteran businesses. Thank you very much for your service to our country. And to the corporations that are present, thank you very much for your commitment to including veterans in your supplier diversity programs and your serious commitment to including veterans as potential suppliers and giving them the opportunity to compete with your companies. We really appreciate that. We're excited about this session to help vets truly understand how to do business in the private sector and how it differs from things that you may be familiar with, and talking specifically to some of these companies. I'm the president of the National Veteran-Owned Business Association. We've been certifying veterans business owners, veterans business enterprises, excuse me, since 2017. But NAVOBA has been around since 2007, trying to advocate for vets in the private sector. And so we have a whole bunch of programs that we do. We encourage you all to join us on Marching Forward Mondays. We'll have another session coming up this coming Monday about how to do business with the Metropolitan Washington Airports Authority. We have all kinds of other recognition and training programs that we do to help make you competitive with our corporations. And so we have other partner organizations. We know we have Rebecca Aguilera Gardner from the VIB Network, and they have a great event that they're putting on coming up in November in Sacramento. That's going to be a hybrid in-person and a virtual event, and she can tell you a little bit more about that. But we definitely want to make sure that you're aware of all the opportunities that are out there to help your businesses grow and compete, where there are organizations that want to include veteran-owned businesses. And so I'd like to take this chance to give Rebecca the chance to introduce herself and the VIB network. I think you're still on mute, Rebecca.
Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate it. Thank you. And we appreciate the partnership too. This is great. It's a great way to, work together to, really help the veteran business community. So I think it's been a great partnership, and we really appreciate the opportunity to come on and speak with, veterans and tell them about all the different things that we do. So I'm Rebecca Aguilera Gardner. I'm the CEO and co-founder for Veterans in Business Network. I'm also vice president of a family-owned printing business, which is SDVBE, that is celebrating 49 years in business this year. So we're very excited. And with that, I have years of experience working with within the DVBE, SDVBE space, winning and losing contracts. So, it goes hand in hand. So with that experience, I'm very happy to be leading the VIB network. So the VIB network is a national organization, and we advocate on behalf of all veteran businesses, including SDVOSBs, and DVBEs. We have a really robust directory where there's an opportunity board, events calendar. We have business resources. We also have a veteran business directory that is free to join, thanks to our corporate and government agencies that help us offer that. And then in November, we have a wonderful conference, a wonderful veteran business conference coming up, and it is going to be a hybrid. So it's going to be a mix between virtual and in person. And we're really excited because this is a new thing for us. We actually consider our conference one of the premier veteran business conferences. Every year it grows, and every year we try to add something new. This year, if you join us in person, you can attend the Pop-In Podcast Social with Eric Coffey from GovCon Giants. He's brilliant if you've ever seen him in podcasting. And then we have our Above and Beyond Award Banquet Dinner. And if you love trains, we're going to have that at the California Railroad Museum. It's going to be beautiful. And then just if you're there in person, we're going to have a VIP lounge. You can get on your computer, meet other in-person attendees. We're really just blending the virtual with the in-person. So we hope that you're able to join us. Novoba's going to be there. We've got a lot of their partners that are participating as well. So hopefully we'll see you in November at the VIP conference. Thank you very much. Thanks, Matt. And looking forward to finding out more of what's going on.
Thank you, Rebecca. Is it now to you, Miss Georgia?
Helps to get off of mute. So good afternoon, everyone. I am indeed Georgia Marsh, and it is a pleasure to be here. I am the Chief Development Officer at the Women's Business Development Center in Chicago. We work with veterans, we work with women, and we work with all businesses. And in particular, we are a certifier of women business enterprises. So the topic today is very near and dear to me. I think there's so much opportunity for veterans. And I hope that today you're going to find out a lot about how you might be able to get into this kind of an arena. I'd like to first start out and also thank Lowe's and thank all of my Novoba colleagues and everyone that's participating today, and certainly all of the veterans that are participating, and also Hazel Beck, the director of the BVAC at SoCal, who has assisted in putting this presentation together. We've worked for many years on different programs. So first of all, to start out, what I'd like each of you to do is to introduce yourself, but not getting online and talking. What I would ask that each of you put information in the chat box, your name, your business, your location, and are you currently contracting? It's really important that you do this, first of all, because we want to know who you are. But second of all, there'll also be opportunities later in the presentation to add your 2 cents. And really, you never can tell when you're going to meet another business that there's an opportunity for B2B. So just think of this as a way to do some networking. So let me give you a minute to go to the chat box. And if everyone would please introduce themselves with their name, their business, their location, and whether or not you're currently contracting. It's a shy group here. I don't see information going in. Okay. Well, I'll start, and for those who haven't yet put their information in, please feel free to do so. Next slide, please. Next slide, Matt. Next slide. So veteran-owned businesses in the United States, there are an awful lot of you. And in fact, veterans, while they comprise only 6% of the general population, the amount of businesses you have far exceeds that. Veterans own 9.1 or 2.5 million of the small businesses in the US. You employ more than 5 million Americans. You pay wages in excess of $195 billion and generate 1.1 trillion in receipts. This information came from the Small Business Administration as part of their Boots on Business. And I imagine that some of the people have taken the Boots on Business. It's part of the Transition Assistance Program that's for transitioning service members. If you haven't, you still have an opportunity to do so because their business reboot that's being delivered throughout the United States by veteran business outreach centers, in addition to the information that you're receiving today, can provide you some additional information on how to do business and what are the opportunities and how you can avail yourself of them. So we want to make sure that you let the private sector know about your company. Next slide. Next slide. So I know that, in speaking with many veterans business owners and working with veteran business owners, many gravitate immediately to work in government, certainly because as being in the military, you're more familiar with that. It's something that you're comfortable with. But there's only, and I hate to say this as a only, $4.8 trillion in annual spending in the government. Multiply that 20-fold, 30-fold, and that's what you're going to find in the private sector. So think about this and think about how much the government spends, but also think about corporations, major ones, smaller ones, spend on an annual basis. It's an awful lot of money. Next slide, please. So take a look at this picture, and you may say, what is this? Well, what did this corporation buy? Some of you may be ready to sell your goods to the corporation right now. This is a picture of an office, but for indirect selling, this office has lights, it has tables, it has chairs, it has cleaning supplies, it has artwork, it has carpets, and of course we can't see everything else that it might have. But these are all the kinds of items that corporate America can buy from a veteran-owned business. And they're called indirect. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about why corporations invest in supplier inclusion and supplier diversity. The need for the products and services and solutions that you sell. Very, very important. Sometimes you have niche products that major corporations or other major companies don't have. The quality of the product, the service and solution, including the price. We know that small companies give much better and enhanced customer service to their clients. Flexibility, creativity, and innovation of small businesses. You have the ability to change on the dime. And didn't we see that when so many small businesses were able to pivot during the pandemic? Larger businesses did not have the capacity to do that as well, but you did have the capacity to do that. You have a differentiation of the products and services and solutions that you offer, which is also very important and something we're going to go back to a lot of different times in this presentation. It may be that the government entity, the corporation has a government mandate for diverse suppliers. If they're a government contractor or if they're involved in government in some other way. They may understand the marketplace and the recognition that people are looking for diverse suppliers in veteran products and services. That's for sure. And the corporation, their business values, their commitment to diversity and inclusion, and more now than ever, are they looking at those kinds of things. So buyers will purchase from any qualified supplier. Supplier diversity programs, which we're going to talk about, provide an additional entry point for each of you. Okay, next slide. So there are various types of corporate procurement. Let's first talk about direct procurement, and it's the acquisition of materials used in the company's business. So it's retail goods to be sold, raw materials that you may be manufacturing, restaurants buy fresh food, buy ingredients, the kinds of things that they use then for their customer. However, there's a whole other group, the indirect procurement, as we talked about a few seconds ago, the acquisition of everything a company needs to operate. that will not be sold to customers. So in the previous picture, there were the tables, the chairs, but let's talk about the example of the restaurant. A restaurant needs menus, they need technology, they need power to cook, they need point of sale equipment. They need those kinds of things which are considered to be indirect kinds of items. If anybody has any questions, feel free to put them into the chat box. So next slide, please. Now it's your turn also to answer another question, and please put this in the chat box. What does your company do exceptionally well? Think about the products and the services that you sell. If you could use 2 words to put that on paper, or in this case, into the chat box, please put that in right now. Couple of words about what you sell and what you do exceptionally well. I see accuracy and speed. That's important. What else? Well, next slide, please. So explaining the value of your company is very, very important. The key things that your company provides, or sometimes known as your core competencies. So if you're a printing company, it might be promotional items, it might be signage, it might be event displays or offset printing. If you're an AI development company, it could be prototyping, coding, machine learning. If you're doing urban farming, organic food supplier, sustainable products, employee wellness programs, and menu designs. This is probably, and Hazel just put in there, your value proposition. What are the things that are your core competencies? Keeping in mind that nobody wants to hear you do everything well. Everything well is not an answer. So think about this, take a moment. What is it that your company provides and what are your core competencies? Next slide, please. So when you are speaking with a potential buyer and they say, what do you do? Again, they don't want a long list. I do everything. I do this and that. I'm a Jack or Jill of all trades. They want to know specifically, what are the things you do that make you unique? Is it the quality? Is the speed, as someone mentioned? Is it your dependability? Is it that you have enhanced products, speed to market? What are those kinds of things? And how will you add value to them? Because in this situation, when you're doing business with a corporation, it is all about them. They want to know how whatever it is you're doing is going to help them solve the problems. They want to understand that you understand their problems. They want you to be able to come up with solutions to their problems of how, and they expect that you're going to know them by the research that you've done. And we're going to talk about the research that's necessary in a later slide. But again, it's all about the corporation and how your solution, your product, your service is going to solve a problem that they have. Next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about who it is that can be of assistance to you. These are some of the titles or where some of these functions lie. Supplier diversity, diversity, equity, and inclusion, business outreach. Most corporations have a person or a group of person who provide these functions. They are professionals and they liaise with you. They liaise with their procurement departments. They liaise with organizations that are advocacy organizations and do certification. Their job is to connect with diverse vendors for their supply chain. Their job is to get to know you and for you to get them to know you. They are your advocates. They stand between you and the buyers. They are the entry point to having a relationship. And oftentimes they could make or break a situation, or you could make a break a situation for them. They will often recommend when they think, well, after they've built a relationship with you, and they will recommend you to their procurement people. But then you have to perform, because if you don't perform, it puts them in a bad situation. Building a relationship with a supplier diversity professional is really critical. And there are so many different ways to do that. We'll talk a little bit about how you could position yourself and do that in a further slide. But building a relationship is very important because it's not transactional. It's something that they could think of you when an opportunity does come up, and then they could reach out to tell you about that opportunity. Next slide, please. So most of the corporations have supplier diversity portals. These are areas where a business can register to be considered by the buyers. Each one of the portals is different. Just because you sign up in one portal does not mean that that information carries over to another portal, nor is it necessary that you sign up at every single corporation that exists. Part of the research that you're going to be doing will tell you which companies that you think you are aligned with and which portals then that you have to sign up in. But that's just a first step, and you could qualify in a portal for more than one category. But it is important, if that's a requirement of a corporation that you want to do business with, that you do it. Okay, next slide. There are other additional ways that you could make yourself known and that you could be able to avail yourself of opportunities in the private sector. In the private sector, as we've been discussing, they're looking to get diverse suppliers into their supply chain. But it's very important when looking at whether or not a business meets the category that there's some way to prove that that business is who they say they are. And that's what it means to be certified. Certification is a vetting process that proves a company is 51% owned, managed, controlled by an individual or a group of individuals in the category. It can be a minority, it could be a veteran, it could be a woman, LGBTQ. And then there is a process that you go through for certification to occur. Next slide. So Stacy Redmond, one of the people on the NOVOBA board who owns a business, is certified. And she is certified in a number of different categories. She is a veteran. She is a woman. She has an LGBT, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender certification, and a disability owned. You could have one of these, you could have all of them. But again, when you do your research, you'll understand which of the certifications is right for you and what that company that you want to do business with is looking for. You may just have one, you may have two, and in some cases you may have three. It's dependent on who your customer or client is going to be. Next slide. So Brian Butler, who is going to be on our panel today from Vista Marketing, is certified. And in addition to being certified, the process is varied. So he's talking here about what you need to do to get certified. The information that needs to be submitted: financial, business details, proof of ownership and control, and frequently there'll be a site visit that's connected with it. During the pandemic, of course, site visits have been done online, But you may ask, why do you need to have a site visit? Well, there have been instances, which will not surprise anybody, where people have said that they are represented themselves as being a head of a business or something else. And when you go to do the site visit, you notice not only don't they have the largest office, but they're somewhere located next to a bathroom or if they have an office at all. And they don't have check signing power. They don't have every other kind of power that you need. So one thing that I can say is that the information that you need to do or you need to provide to get certified is the kind of information that every sustainable business should be maintaining. This is nothing extraordinary. You probably need to have most of this information as you operate for various reasons. If you're going to get loans, if you're going to do other kinds of business. But it is standard operating information that a business has. You're just submitting it in a different format. Next slide. So the most respected of the certifications that are non-government, and today we're talking about non-government certifications, the private sector certifications. Matt, could you go back to the third-party certifications? Thank you. And these are the certifications that are administered and done by entities like NAVOBA, and they are widely accepted by corporate America throughout the United States. The National Veteran-Owned Business Association, which is VBE and SDVBE, the Women Business Enterprise National Council, which is WBE Certification, the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council, MBE Certification, and the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce, LGBTBE Certification, and Disability in DOBE Certification. These are the gold standards of certification that are the most widely accepted. Next slide, please. So I'm going to briefly go through the certifications, talk a little bit about them. There is a website that's listed for each. Important that you take a look. There is a fee for certification. The fees differ depending on the size of your business in some cases, and it may be other factors as well. So you have to check with the individual certification body. The Veterans Business Enterprise Certification, which is NAVOBA, it's done through the National Veteran-Owned Business Association, the entity that is bringing you this webinar today. There is a fee for this certification. It is a 2-year certification. And more information, www.navoba.org. Next slide. Next slide, please. A WBE certification, this is a certification that's done through my organization as well. It's done through the Women's Business Enterprise National Council for women-owned businesses. It is WBE certification and WOSB. The certification is not done through the national office, but rather through 14 regional partner organizations. And it provides, as the other ones, the recognition that you are a business that is 51% owned, operated, managed, and controlled by a woman or a group of women. This is a certification that is annually renewed, and it is an important marketing tool, as all the rest are, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And there is a fee for this certification, and it's on the website. Next slide. Minority business enterprise, sought by Asian, African American, Hispanic, and Native American owned companies. Certification is done through 24 affiliate councils throughout the United States. If you are looking for this certification, you could go online to www.nmsdc.org, and it will say which of the affiliates is in your particular area. And for this certification in WBE, You have to get certified through the particular affiliate that is in the area where your business is domiciled. There is a fee for this certification as well, and it is based on the size and the revenue of your business. Next slide, please. LGBTBE certification sought by lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender-owned companies to help leverage contracts. This certification is done through the National LGBT Chamber of Commerce and its affiliate chambers. However, the certification itself is done national, although you apply through the chambers. And again, there is a fee for this certification. And then the last certification we're going to talk about today is DOBE. Next slide, please. Disability In certifies disability-owned business enterprises, include service-disabled and veteran-disabled owned businesses. It links members to organizations seeking to diversify their supply chains, as all the organizations do. And we'll talk about the role of the advocacy organizations, the minority supplier development councils, the WBE regional partner organizations in a couple of moments. There is a fee for this certification. So despite the fact that there is a fee for these certifications, they are valuable to you in many different instances if you are looking to do business with the private sector. So next slide, please. So let's talk about what certification is and what certification is not. Certification is a marketing tool, and it helps to appeal for companies looking for specific vendors because, as we talked before, why they want specific types of vendors in their supply chain. It does not guarantee that you're going to get a contract. It does not even help you fill out paperwork for a contract. It is a marketing tool that enables you to get into a different door sometimes. It enables you to participate in different types of events and activities, and it enables you to differentiate yourself. What certification is not is that the company owes you because you're certified, that you get a contract just because you're certified. You still have to work, you still have to compete, because in the end, whether you're certified or not, a company is looking for a product and service that differentiates them, that is going to solve a problem for them, that is meaningful to what they're trying to accomplish. So I think that the point that we definitely want to make is that it's a very significant marketing tool, but it doesn't mean that a contract is just in front of you if that happens. So next slide, please. There are opportunities, though, that you're going to be able to avail yourself if you get certified and you put yourself in a different group and you're invited to different types of things. First of all, as we mentioned several times previously, research is really very important. You have to research the companies that you think that your products and services are a good match to. You research visit their websites. Many of them will have their own events that you could go to. Some of them have mentoring programs. Some of them have training programs. And in the past year, with the pandemic and civil unrest, many companies are looking to up their game and to enhance what they're doing to ensure that diversity and inclusion is a major part of how they do their procurement. Then there are the advocacy organizations, which are very important for you to be able to work with. In each community, there are a group of organizations, whether they're small business development centers, women's business centers, veteran business outreach centers, procurement technical assistance centers, They're all there and funded to assist you in this journey. This is not a journey that you need to take alone. In the case of my organization, the Women's Business Development Center, we have over 150 corporate and government partners. And our job is to stand in the middle. On one side are the corporations, who are the demand side, and on the other side are our women business enterprise, who are the supply side. Our job is to make sure that we provide capacity building opportunities, matchmaking opportunities, opportunities at procurement events, working with the corporations and working with veterans and working with minorities and working with others to ensure that we put you into the right arena and that you have the opportunity to network, to meet people, and to build relationships. Because when you put information in a portal, it's transactional. When you build a relationship over time, because a relationship just doesn't happen, it's something that is very, very important. And I'll give you just an example. In one of the workshops that I gave, an example was given. Someone was saying, well, you know, I've been calling this corporation. I know that the supplier diversity lead gets in every morning at 6:30. So I call him every morning at 6:30 just to let him know I'm available and can do things. Not the way to build a relationship. The way to build a relationship is to go out and meet these people. Then understanding what their company is. If there's an article you come about, if there's something of interest, send it to them. Let them know that you're there, but don't be overbearing, because that's not going to help you to get a contract. That's not going to help you to build that relationship. That's not going to help in any kind of a way. Next slide. So what makes your company different from other vendors? And if everyone would just take a minute to put a word or two into the chat box of what your differentiator is, I would appreciate it. Okay, I'm sure that you're still doing that. It's very important to understand that, both for the capability statement and your differentiator. There are hundreds of businesses that probably do the things that you do, but you're going to do something a little bit different that's going to make the difference. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about the kinds of things that are examples of differentiators. Recipes, patents, intellectual property. Your production capacity. Were you able to gear up and do something special during the pandemic or something? Your reputation, years in business, influence, the kinds of customers and clients that you had, your sales volume, your geographic area, the successes that you've had with your clients and your customers, and the references that they give you, and talk about that. Founders, investors, and key management. This can all be examples of the differentiators for your company, and they roll into the value proposition that you're going to be presenting to the companies that you work with. Oh, next slide, please. Very important, and one of the first things that you're going to be doing when you're looking at doing business in private sector is identifying your ideal client. Read their annual reports, read articles about the kinds of companies that you think you would like to work with. See if they have a list of who it is that they might be doing business with now. Do your research, be very focused, not scattered. Find out what organizations they are involved with and get involved with those organizations as well. Understanding the buyer's perspective, whether you are proposing a solution based on your observation or responding to an RFP, is critical. Understanding your client, understanding your customer, understanding what their pain points are, what challenges they may be having, and then focus on the 3, 4, or 5, and that may even be too many, that you really want to work with, and then set out your path of how you're going to go about making that relationship. Next slide, please. Understand the terminology that's used in this. A capability statement, a statement of qualifications, the request for information, the pre-bid meetings, request for proposal, request for a quote. Working and doing business in the private sector is very different than doing business in the with government. Very, very different. How they go about doing things, the way in which they do it is very different because they're not regulated in the same way that government is for the most part. So get familiar with the terms that are being used and get comfortable with them. Next slide. Respond when they're asking you something with a capability statement, describing your company, your product and service, the qualifications that you have, your capability. Certainly, if they're nationwide and you only serve one geographic area, that's going to be something. But tell them about what you do and how you do it. Why are you attractive? You know, pick 3 or 4 NAICS codes. You don't have to be a Jack and Jill of all trades. They do not want that. They want you to be very specific and to be able to solve for some challenge or some need that they have. Next slide, please. So respond to a request. You'll be compared your basics with others. Attend a pre-bid meeting. They want you to meet in person along with other interested vendors. This is very important as well, because sometimes you may not be ready to bid on a complete project yourself, but you may want to subcontract. And typically speaking, there are primes that come to these meetings, and primes are the people that are the entities that are large, and sometimes they will get a contract and then they will look for veterans and other diverse suppliers to be able to do subcontracting with. So attend the meeting, network, talk to other people, give out your card, let them know what you do, because again, you never can tell who you're talking to or who you're going to be maybe following up with, because they may be in a position to work with you in the future. Next slide. They'll want to know what you could do for them. The formal document that describes the project, a request for a quote, which is the pricing, a request for a proposal. Respond with a proposal, respond to a quote. Sometimes we've seen situations where when responding, you think that it's good to underbid and not really put in the kinds of quotes that are important so that you could pay for what you need to plus make a profit. So be reasonable with responding to the quote. And if you need assistance, again, there are entities that can assist you, whether they're small business development centers, SCORE, veteran business outreach centers, women's business centers. They can assist you in putting together some of this information, and oftentimes they will have classes specifically on these topics, or in the case of my organization, we have an online library that provides a lot of information on how you do some of these things. And you could always Google it and go to the internet. Many, many, many examples for small businesses. So next slide. There are veteran and SBA funded and community resources. These resources have been funded to work with you. You should use them, you should abuse them. If one isn't providing you with the kind of services that you need, then go to another. because it's very important to have somebody to talk with. It's important to be able to have an advocacy organization that you could interact with that has the contacts. And there are many, many resources that are available to you. You are not in this alone. There are so many opportunities right now. So just to go over the list again, Veterans Business Outreach Centers. Those are an entity funded by the Small Business Administration. Small Business Development Centers. SCORE, which are retired business people. Veterans Chambers of Commerce, which are becoming more prolific throughout the United States. The Rosie Network, Bunker Labs, the Veteran Business Project. They are all there to provide you with the assistance you need, because if you're not successful, none of these entities are successful. The certification and advocacy organizations, NAVOBA, WeBank, NMSDC, NGLSCC, and Disability In. So they are there. You could look any of these up, find out where your local chapter is, your local regional partner, go to NAVOBA and see how they can help. But they are there to provide you with guidance on this journey, because it is a journey, and the journey may take a couple of years. I know of several businesses that have tried to work with major corporations 3 and 4 years, and it was the 5th year that they were able to actually get a contract. So that lends itself to saying that you should diversify. In the interim, work with other small businesses, B2B, build your portfolio, build your creds, build all of the experience that you've had in order to be successful in this. So in summary, next slide, please. Do your research. Determine if corporate procurement is right for your company. May not be right for everybody, but see if it's right for you. Find out who needs your product or your service. Decide which certifications you need, and that will probably be in consultation. Get certified. The process takes a couple of months to 6 months, depending on who is certifying you. Register in your supplier portal or portals. Leverage resources available to you, and before you get certified, before you do anything, network, network, network. Ask a bunch of questions to everyone that you come up to that is in the capacity to be able to steer you in the right direction. In addition to network, 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 do intentional networking with the corporations that are of interest to you. Build relationships. We know people who have relationships are always those top of mind when someone is thinking that they have a need. And most importantly, bid and land a contract, because we know what a great feeling that is to get that first contract. And you're going to hear a lot more about that in our panel discussion that's going to be starting in a couple of minutes. Next slide, please. So this is your call to action. Start your journey to corporate procurement. Talk with NAVOBA. People at Lowe's are there to talk as well. And there are a lot of resources that you're going to hear about in a couple of minutes. So thank you for allowing me to present this information to you. My email is somewhere. Maybe I'll put it in the chat box, and I'm more than happy to talk with anybody and do any follow-up and answer any questions. So
Thank you, Georgia. If anybody has comments or questions, please use this minute to put them in the chat box. We'll give Georgia a minute to catch her breath and get a drink of water, and then we'll start with the panel discussion. if you all take a look, Georgia has put her email in the chat box. It's gmarsh@wbdc.org. Also, suppliers can email Tabitha at supplierdiversity@lowe's.com. And from Novoba, Georgia, we'd like to tell you excellent presentation.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I was trying to zip through because I know time is limited, but there's lots of conversation to have about this, but even more opportunity.
And great job from Tabitha as well.
Thank you.
Any comments, suggestions, questions that you all want to put in the chat? If not, we'll go ahead and get started with the panel discussion.
Okay, thank you. We have a tremendous panel for you today. And rather than me going through everybody's bio, I am going to call on everyone to get all of our panelists, 3 of them veteran business enterprises and 3 of them corporates, to give a couple of minutes, the elevator speech, if you will, a little bit about their companies, who they are, and something important that they want to start off with. So I'll start with our veteran business enterprises. Demond, do you want to start off for us, please? Demand, excuse me. I don't know. This was my new accent saying it.
Okay, well, yeah, I'm here. Demond Crump. I'm the CEO and founder of Rain Premium Sanitary Napkins and Panty Liners. We are the only 100% minority-owned sanitary napkin and panty liner company in the world. We distribute right out of McDonough, Georgia, the Atlanta, Georgia area. We have a Nobel Prize winning material, graphene, infused into all of our products. We're more geared towards B2B, but we've been having great success, and Novoba and Mimi has been kind of tracking our progress. We just recently opened our brand new 14,000 square foot headquarters here in the McDonough, Georgia area. So if you guys are ever here, come by and visit us. You can see what we're all about. And we're definitely making waves and spaces, and we are open to getting into the corporate arena. Currently right now, we're in class with CVS and William Rogers University because we were chosen to be a part of that particular program. And we're currently now exploring that option. But most of our business, as we said, is more B2C, direct to consumers.
Thank you very, very much. You'll see as we go through this that we have very diverse businesses and corporations with us today. Brian, would you like to go next?
Thank you, Georgia, and I hope everybody can hear me. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Butler. My company is Vistra Communications. We're a full service marketing and PR agency. Our really our sweet spot is we provide integrated services. So we mix a blend of those two. I'm a retired Army officer. I actually started my company out of desperation because I couldn't find a job when I launched in 2006 here in the Tampa Bay area. Today, we have about 115 employees. About 60% of our work is in the federal government, but we do a lot of work in the corporate space as well. Some of our corporate clients have included ExxonMobil, Coca-Cola, Bank of America, Chase, and many, many more, Lowe's. One of the things that we did a few years ago is I heard procurement officers challenge us on where we were, is I went out and acquired a small marketing agency and rolled it wholly inside of my company, which actually broadened our ability to provide services, the services they desired. So, and it's one of the best things that we've ever done was to acquire that agency. We had already been in that space, but it allowed us to go deeper and further and provide additional services. And I'm happy to be here today.
Wow, impressive list of clients, that is for sure. And our third veteran business panelist, Barbara, would you like to please introduce yourself?
Well, good afternoon. My name is Barbara Myrick. I am the president of B&M Construction. We are a general contractor located in the beautiful Front Range of Colorado Springs, Colorado. We have 3 divisions in our company: construction, furniture procurement, space planning, design, moves and installations, and we also have an electrical division. I've been in business since 2005, have about 9 certifications. Love what I do. Play a lot in the federal space. So we are located in Tampa, Dallas, Palo Alto, California, and St. Louis. So we've just expanded across the country. We do various work throughout the government, from DOD all the way to VA. Thought about it a couple of years ago. Sometimes we forget and we put all our eggs in one basket, but when that egg cracks and you don't have a backup plan, you have to figure it out. And so about 5 years ago, we started diversifying our portfolio into corporate America. And so we just picked up AT&T as a client 2 years ago. Chase and CBRE is our client base as well. So building relationships is what we do. Listen and finding solutions is what we're good at. And look forward to the panel discussion this afternoon. Thank you for NOVOBA's invitation.
Thank you, Barbara. And now we're going to hear from our corporates. Let's start with KV, please.
Oh, let me unmute here. Good afternoon, everyone. KV Lennon with Meyer. I am the Supplier Diversity Manager here. So thank you so much for the invitation to join this conversation today. I've been in the space of supplier diversity for about 10 years now. Started in office furniture, now into the retail space. A little bit about Meyer. We have over 207 stores across 6 states in the Midwest, mostly in Michigan. I am based out of Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin. We are expanding our reach into Kentucky, and we are building a brand new marketplace in St. Louis. So I heard Barbara talking about having presence there. We build about 5 new stores per year. I am working in the space of construction because there's so much opportunity there, but not just, not discrediting in other spaces, indirect as well as retail ready in the merchandise space. So I'm like connecting with like Brian already and Demond, like your products could definitely be at Meyer and your services as well. So I look forward to the conversation today. Thank you for having me.
Okay, next we'll go to Chad.
Thank you, Georgia.
Mhm.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chad Frost. I'm the manager of supplier diversity here at Anthem. Anthem is a very large health insurance organization, based in Indianapolis, Indiana. We have total medical membership of almost 43 million people across the country. And through some of our affiliated health plans, we touch about 110 million lives across the United States. So we have a very large and robust footprint, and very excited to talk to you all today and share our insights.
Thank you. And finally, Jay, would you please give your little introduction?
Good
Or
afternoon,
big
everybody.
introduction.
Good afternoon or good evening, everybody. My name is Jay Wesley, and I work for Lumen Technologies. I'm the Global Supply Diversity Manager, one of 2. What Lumen is doing these days, they're on the edge of computing for the 4th industrial revolution. Also, products and services that they produce is communication, edge computing, hybrid IT, cloud managed and IT services, networking, and cybersecurity. And I'm here looking for some great suppliers here today and making sure that they understand how they can do business with Lumen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's start out with our VBEs. And Barb, if you want to start, how did you decide to go into the private sector? You alluded to it a little bit earlier, but maybe you could tell us more about your story and how that decision was made so that others listening in, you know, can get some advice.
So as leaders, we are visionaries, and we always try and we always look to the future and what can we do and what can we offer. And so for me, it was looking at where do we go, because federal government is good. I served and I wanted to just give back, and that was an open door. But at some point when the procurement processes change and how the government looks at RFPs and how they're sent out, sometimes small business is excluded from those opportunities. So at that point, I said, okay, how do I build a sustainable company, but still work in the federal arena, which I love, but open other opportunities, look at other opportunities. And so I wind up being, I became WBE certified. And they were talking about corporations, and I'm saying, is this real? You know, you have all these corporations that actually want to do business with women-owned businesses, but not just women-owned businesses, service-disabled, veteran-owned businesses. So I got certified. That was the start. And then, you know, the SDVBE came, and I became certified through DOBE and through the VA. And that really had me look at opportunities and where corporates look at us as veterans as reliable, because that is just the mentality that we have. We want to perform. We've been trained to be successful. We've been trained that failure is not an option. And so I said, okay, well, let me look at corporate. And yes, it didn't happen right away. It doesn't happen right away. It doesn't even happen right away in the government sector, but it was building those relationships and showing up. And I know sometimes people say, I get tired of showing up and I get tired of going to the same thing and nothing happens, but that's how success happens. That's how those relationships happen. That's how those contracts come. And I'll just use Chase, for instance. I met their small business person at a NOVOBA award ceremony that I had. I was a recipient of in Detroit, and I went, and he was just like, wow, you're a woman-owned business and you do construction, which is out of the norm really for women to get into this industry. And we started talking, and he asked me to send him his capabilities. Well, that award ceremony started a relationship. And then he would be at events that I would show up at, and I would just go and say hi. Now we still talk business, but he asked me now, how is my cows, how my goats and my chickens are doing. And it's just, we built that relationship of understanding and trust. And I've just always been honest with all my clients. But corporations, they love relationships. They want to hear about our pitfalls, and they want to know how we recovered. And so from there, Chase became CBRE, became AT&T. And so it's just growing and growing and growing. And so I just want to encourage all veteran-owned businesses to look for those opportunities in corporate and have the mindset of not having the $1 million contract coming out the gate, and that we're not thoroughbreds coming out the gate, because if you don't pace yourself right, you will have failure. And so I just took a different approach with corporate, and I don't start out with $25,000 contracts and they just grow from there. But it just be determined in what you want to do, be focused in what you want. And like Georgia said earlier, you can't be all over the place. Know your client, know their needs, do your research, ask questions. And my best advice I can give you is just always show up.
Well, you know, that was such a good response. And additionally, I have some summary points that we'll use, but you couldn't have talked, you were the execution of the, of what I presented. Let me hear from Brian for, about what his experience has been, and then Damon. Brian?
Yes, thank you. Somewhat similar to that of that Barbara mentioned. We didn't swing for the fence at first. We whatever small project we have a chance to go in and work on, we look at it as, let's do the best we can. Let's make them want more. Let's put them in a position where it's hard to go for them to go back and say this small business didn't deliver, or they didn't give us what we thought we're looking for. So we had a tendency, we still have a tendency to over delivering and looking for opportunities. I am constantly looking for opportunities. I go to a lot of events, and one little project, one little relationship leads to another. I've been through the AT&T program. I've been through the CVS Health program, the Kellogg program, and so many others, because I look at this as I need to constantly learn, constantly meet people, look for opportunities and places that we can deliver. And our growth, both in the federal space and the corporate space, has happened as a result of that. My advice would be very similar to what Barbara mentioned. Either partner with somebody or ask for a small little sample of work, and so that you're given a chance to deliver, because this really is about trust, risk, flexibility as a small business owner, and an opportunity to deliver no matter what the size is. And those little things just lead to big ones after a while.
I think that both of you have mentioned something very, very important, that that a corporation will understand that a business sometimes can't do everything, or that there may be problems, but that what they're looking for is how you're going to mitigate that. Have you been proactive enough that you have a mitigation strategy should something go wrong or should something happen? So I think that's very, very important. Damon, do you want to chime in on this?
I would like to say, first of all, one of the things, I saw your slide, and when you were talking about certifications, basically you were sharing, don't have any expectations, meaning that as if the company or the entity you're getting certified through is supposed to do everything for you. And I watch a lot of people that get these certifications and they complain about the organizations not doing anything for them. And we had just a different mindset. I wanted to make sure that we get out on a grassroots level. We begin to do focus groups around the country, and we created a groundswell for our product. So when we enter into any arena, we're not coming begging. We're not coming with hat in hand, because we've already developed a customer base. I mean, literally, we've been open now. June 1st, made our second year in business. Over 500,000 women have utilized our product. Right now, subscribers monthly that's buying our product is almost 50,000 every single month. We're talking about off of a $6 product. We grew through the pandemic because of the mindset and the philosophy that we had, that we're going to get out and do it. We're going to make it happen and, get out and do vending events and host webinars. And we're showing people the power of our demonstration. And I want to thank Navoba so much because they were able to get me into the Tuck University School of Business because Wells Fargo had a chance to see our business model. They saw our presentation and they loved it. And they gave us the scholarship there, because that's what we're all about. And if I can encourage, anyone out there, and also to the corporate vendors, hey, listen, not everybody's looking and begging. Some people are saying, hey, listen, when we come to the table, we're also being a blessing to your company as well, because the machine is already moving. And that's our goal in terms of what we're about and what we stand for. We want to come to the table to be able to hold our own versus just strictly depending on the corporate organization that we're looking to lock arms with.
Thank you. That was a powerful answer, a very powerful answer. So now let's hear a little bit.
Georgia.
Yes.
May I interrupt for a second? James, is James' iPad has their hand up. If you'd like to ask a quick question, or else if you could put it in the chat. James? Okay. Let's just continue, and then if you have a question, you can please, if you could all please put them in the chat. Thank you so much.
So Jay and our corporates, let me ask you from the other side, what can a veteran business enterprise do to prepare themselves to work with your company? And let's start with Jay on this.
Okay. Well, first of all, I've been in diversity for 25 years, and I've seen the ups and downs. I've interviewed probably over 10,000 companies over my career. And basically what I do in dealing with not only veteran suppliers, but with all suppliers, is that I've set up a process where the supplier comes to me. And what I do is I first have them register on our portal. Secondly, they send me their capability statement. I do a Dun & Bradstreet. Then I review the answers that they have in their portal because there are different answers than the capability statement. And so what I do is I develop the supplier. So if that particular supplier has a good or service or something, it's going to be now. We go through a process. I may meet with that particular supplier maybe 4 or 5 times. Some are one, some maybe one time. And what this has done is that I take all the ambiguities out when I pass them on to the commodity manager. And what I do with all my suppliers, anybody who picks up the phone and calls me, I talk to them. I set up a meeting and talk to them. They got to register first, then I talk to them, and then we start the dialogue before they go over to the commodity manager. Now, if there's a requirement now, then it's going to be a fast track. If it's a building future capacity, that's what we're doing. And the results speak for themselves. I mean, we're growing at a 40% rate right now after 2 quarters, this year alone. Previous year was 36%. Previous year before that, it's 48%. We're going to top the $1 billion mark this year. So this process is definitely working. We even had a success story today. Guys, a particular company has been working with us for 8 months. It's the supplier diversity office. We finally got him to the commodity manager. He's getting ready to sign an NDA. And there's a couple of projects that he is going to probably get a chance to bid on. So again, I want to make my answer even a little bit shorter. I know it's been long, but one of the things I do is I get that supplier ready to be able to bid. They understand our culture. I make sure if they're going to be a fit, I initiate a lot of things with the supplier now, because it saves me a lot of time of going back and forth with the supplier, and I can get more suppliers into the supply chain. And the proof in the pudding is the numbers, so especially in disabled veteran, especially in woman-owned business, in all categories. We took our disabled veteran numbers from 0, to 15 million in 1 quarter. So it's working.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think one of the important points that you made amongst many was understanding the culture of the corporation that you want to do business with. That's a really important fact. Let's hear from KV now. And
yeah, that's a great point, to understand the culture. Jay, I agree with everything you have stated. It's a lot of work on our part, right? To make sure that we're bringing qualified suppliers to our commodity managers and coach them along the way to ensure that they have meaningful conversation, do their homework, make sure to get to the point what they're looking at to sell to the company. So let me give a quick little bit of background for Meyer. We're a superstore, right? So we have different buying from indirect merchandise, construction, and logistics. So when we go out and seek suppliers, we need to keep in mind that not everybody are retail ready, but there are a lot who love to be in the retail space, right? So I'm taking all the great learnings that I've had in the last 9 years leading this work for another organization and bringing forth into the retail space and having a different conversation. So one of the programs that I'm working on right now, Roadmap to Retail, because there's a lot of folks that are interested into that space, but they don't know how to get there. But what space do they really want to play in the retail space? Do they want to put their products in our merchandise? Do they want to be in our fresh area? Do they want to sell apparel in our apparel department? Or they have something creative just at demand? I mean, I'm listening to you and what a great story. I'm seeking for you those unique products that will make the partnership special, where now I'm carrying your product at my stores, or I have a construction company that able to impact a space that we're building our stores, right? So I shared earlier, we have 5 different stores that we're building out. I want to make sure that we're impacting local and we're also impact diverse owned businesses there. And veteran is dear to my heart because I sit on the veteran owned business roundtable, and my job is to ensure to provide resource, direction, guidance to our veterans to ensure that they have meaningful conversation, not only with my internal partners who are my buyers, but also my external partners as well. When I think about Tabitha and I, we always try to exchange great ideas. What can we do together to really elevate this space and share suppliers? When we find a supplier, let's share them. Let's help build them because it's a win-win situation for both parties and for others. So I'm very passionate about what I do, just like Jay and many others here. So I'm really excited that I'm able to be here and really talk about the company that I represent, but on external work that I do, I'm working for you. If you can't sell directly to Meyer, I have so many corporate partners that I could share your information with. So taking the time just to getting to know you. I love one pagers. Tell me who you are, what you do, who are some of your clients, and let me connect those dots and see if it makes sense internally and on my corporate partners as well. So I'll pause there because I could go on with this.
Well, Katie, first of all, thank you so much for your passion. I do want to put a plug in for a program that may be of interest to people that my organization is delivering, which is sponsored by Walgreens. It's called Top Shelf, How to Do Business with Big Box Retail. And we have people that are looking, because it's very different, as you mentioned, from doing regular retail. Anyway, this year, in working with NAVOBA, we have 4 or 5 veterans that are participating in the program. And because of the fact that we're still virtual, we have 2 veterans that have joined from Germany to take, it's a cohort-based program. Best Buy is involved, Target, Starbucks. And I think I'm going to look you up to involve you in the program as well.
We are. We're actually going to be one of your judges on your July event. Yeah. So our Director of Supplier Diversity, Carla Hendon, will be joining that session. So we're trying to split up our work so that way we could capture different buying streams within the organization, and just reaching out to advocate agencies like this, just to get to know that Meyer has an official program. We have talent internally who are very passionate about this work. We have a team. We're just getting started, and we have a similar program that we're doing like the Top Shelf, and would love to do something like that with you in the future. We're part of your event next month.
Great. Chad, if you'd like to tell us a little bit more about you and how do you engage veteran businesses and others to do business with you?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I think one of the, and you've kind of heard this solid theme throughout the discussion today, but I think one of the most important things is to really make sure that you as suppliers understand and learn the needs of your customers. Like we've heard things like learn the culture of the company, but I think it's really important too to understand the industry that they sit within and what would help them to be successful in that marketplace. What helps them to be successful with their customers, and what things can you bring to the table through your innovative, solutions, products, or services, that can help them win in any one of those categories. I think another thing, and I say this from the standpoint of we're a very heavily regulated environment, being in healthcare, you also have to understand what regulations those companies are governed by that you might be wanting to do business with. There may be some regulation and some things that you're exposed to that you're like, oh, wow, I didn't know I needed to be compliant with that. Or, oh, I didn't realize if I do business with you, I might have several regulatory bodies that you might be exposed to. And that's shouldn't be said as a scary thing. I just think it's one of those things that you should be very open and kind of aware of it. I think one other thing I would say too, as I think about engagement, and again, I kind of say this selfishly from our standpoint, we have a lot of government contracts, especially at the state levels, for Medicaid contracts especially. And one of the things that is critically important for us and is kind of an enabler for us to win in those markets is for you all to have your certifications in place and to keep them current. Many of these procurements, as you go and you start bidding on these state contracts, they have requirements that say, hey, we want to make sure that a certain percentage of your spend, your subcontracted spend with this procurement is with diverse-owned companies, whether that's women-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned, et cetera. And if your certifications are not in place or you don't have them, we can't count your spend, and it doesn't help us. It actually kind of hurts us. So I know it was kind of talked about earlier as a marketing tool, to really help you with your organization. But at the same time, it is actually of value to us, and it helps us to count, that spend with your organization. So I think that's it. Thank you, Georgia.
Well, thank you very much. I'm going to talk about another question. And first, I would like some of the corporates to respond, and then also our veteran businesses. The last couple of years have been tumultuous, to say the least. The events, whether it has been the pandemic or civil unrest, has made many changes. Can you talk a little bit about how the events of the last year have changed the way your company thinks about and engages with diverse suppliers, if indeed there has been any change? And in some cases, we've seen where supplier diversity has now become a part of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I see you're shaking your head. So Chad, would you like to start on that?
Of course. I think, it's funny, I was just sitting here and even thinking about the forum that we're having this discussion in today. I think that one of the major shifts that every single company, and I don't care what kind of business you're in, I think is going to see is you're going to start seeing this evolution to a digital first mindset. So, there are plenty of CFOs across the world really that are starting to question, do we really need to be spending so much money on business travel? And should we really be more leveraging some of the technology that we have in place? Now, I personally love to travel, and I hate the fact that our travel industry has been decimated by some of this. So I really am not advocating for that. But I do think the point here is there's so much of a focus on what can be done using digital technology to, kind of get to our customers, have our suppliers get to us better, and really connect together as a broader ecosystem and community. So I really, just would underscore the importance of, leveraging technology, understanding it, not being afraid of it, and figuring out how it can be used as a differentiator for you and your company to connect with each other.
Just as a follow-up, are you dealing with your suppliers in a different kind of way since you're not being at networking events but some of the advocacy organizations like ours are doing online matchmaking, but are you involved in any of that?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. I would actually say, I think that right now, especially given that most people are still at home, you have to be very intentional. I think that's one thing in this space and I think that right now, given that we're not able to connect together in person as much and travel, you have to be very, very intentional about making sure that you're taking the time to attempt to connect with your suppliers. I also think on the flip side, your suppliers have to be very intentional about making sure that they're reaching out and still staying present and connected as much as they were before. But I absolutely think that any of those kind of online networking engagements, whether it's matchmaking or whatever, or attending sessions like this, critically important to stay connected.
I miss the the real life interaction. I really do. I've been in part of so many virtual conferences. I'm sorry to jump in, but I didn't want to miss the moment when chat's like, we got to use technology, but I'm exhausted from technology. I want to be able to build those relationships in person because I like meeting people when they're visiting me, or I'm having breakfast in the morning and someone sit next to me and learn about their company. They learn about me. You build those relationships. Maybe I don't have a direct business opportunity for you right now, but that relationship means something to me because maybe a few years from now I hear of something or I have those opportunity, I'll remember you. And I think a lot of us miss that interaction of introducing someone to another person, or I hug. Now I don't know what the rules are when we do get to meet in person, if we get to hug or not, but I really miss that interaction to build friendship and really looking at products too, right? Now you're probably sending your samples, or if you have products, samples to your buyers before you could have that interaction and have meetings and engagement and bring the right parties to the table in a conference room. But the world is going to be very different going forward. You know, I've worked in an office furniture space, and the mode of work is very different. You got to have that flexibility. You got to go along with the style of work. You know, people find things more productive now when you're at home, that flexibility. They want to log in at 6 in the morning and work until whenever, or log in later in the afternoon and work towards the night. But I think we're exhausted from that. I think we miss that engagement. Another part, you talked about how companies are engaging in the space of supplier diversity. The number has grown. This is good news to our veterans, to our diverse businesses. The number of corporations that are committing into this work has grown significantly in this past year. And there are companies who are building out departments, allocating resources to this work, and the intentionality of carving out programs for various classification, program around veteran, a program around diverse owned businesses, people with disability, LGBT, and you know, this month is Pride Month. So there are intention around these strategy from corporation in ensuring that they're meeting the right talent, right companies that could support them. And when you're and a lot of companies are starting up, so give them patience, give them time, but they're interested. They want to know more and they want to do more. And that's the exciting news, right? The fortunate part for Meyer, you know, I've been doing this for so long that I'm taking some of the best practices and we're running instead of just building the foundation. So there's a lot of great work that we're doing this year, and including this event. We're doing an indirect event next month, and we're doing a construction event in October. We want to put out our schedule of events throughout the year, so you know when we're going to be procuring those commodities. So hopefully we'll lead with some best practices, so that way our diverse suppliers will get that knowledge and be able to gain some business traction with us.
Thank you so much. Jay, what about Lumen? Have there been any changes?
Well, I made a decision early last year that I ignored the coronavirus and I went technology. And what I ended up doing, at least from I'm a data-driven person, and from the metrics that I put together, our outreach program ended up being on steroids. Okay, and we were able to not only increase our diversity base to over 1,000 suppliers in 1 year, I'm able to talk to more companies on an individual basis. I love the face-to-face, don't get me wrong, but an intricate part of my program going forward, my intricate part of my program now and going forward is going to be the virtual, because the more I can sit and talk face-to-face with a company one-on-one and then go through all the little things that we need to go through to get them to be a bid-ready supplier. It's in other words, it's giving us volume. It's giving us additional outreach. We can't fly everywhere, but we can schedule a half hour or an hour meeting and talk to a supplier. And that has worked tremendously. The numbers don't lie.
Mm-hmm. Damon, I know that you talked a little bit about what you've been doing in the last year. I don't know if that's because of the pandemic or how that affected, but as a business person, what are your thoughts about how things have changed and how you're doing business?
Well, actually, our business grew through the pandemic because our product is attached to a necessity, whether we like it or not. If you have the ability to keep young ladies and women comfortable and dry during that time, you struck gold. So now the fact that people weren't going to stores or anything, they were more online, and obviously a lot of our growth has been organic. Girlfriends telling their girlfriend, you have to try this particular product. And it worked for us in ways we couldn't believe. So, with the pandemic in full force, our warehouse staff and customer service phones were still ringing. We were shipping through the entire process, and literally our sales doubled from the previous year. So it was actually a blessing, on our side for us to be able to grow and make that happen, because once again, we're more in the necessity field when it comes to, young ladies and women. And actually my mother she'll be 81 years old next month, and she uses our panty liners every single day. So we are covering a spectrum from 12-year-old young ladies all the way up to 80-plus-year-old women that utilize the product. And, all of this, as I said before, is being done on a $6 product. So it worked to our benefit to be able to ship and have people to go online and purchase from us.
So do you think that, with us getting out of the pandemic and things changing, I don't know what the new normal will be, that the mode and the method that you're using will be sustainable, or will you continue a mixed way of selling? What are your intentions for the future?
Absolutely. We're going to continue with the mixed way, because before the pandemic, we were doing 5K run walks, because we also have an education and awareness campaign attached to our product, because we believe in building a culture around the product, which kind of locks our consumers into our ecosystem. So we do galas. We were doing 5K run walks, all these phenomenal things that we were doing. Now we're going to begin to get back to that. And now you add the online piece, because remember, we just got on social media probably 90 days ago. So we just entered into the social media. That's how grassroots and organic our growth has been, and word of mouth. But absolutely, Ms. Georgia, we are going to have a mixture of both, because we're not going to cut off the online aspect, but people do enjoy the more in person, because now we're starting to get back to our focus groups where we go into cities and we have these talks around menstrual health and all these things, and that's attached to the culture of the product.
Thank you. Barbara, how did this affect you in the construction business?
You're mute. You're mute.
Barbara?
She's got mute on.
I'm just talking.
We were trying to listen to you, but we didn't hear anything.
So I'm a people person. I love the face-to-face. So I struggled a little bit with that. Whereas my teams, though, they were still out servicing the clients, because that's our client base. So I kind of struggled with the Zoom meetings. Honestly, I was zoomed out. I was just like, oh my God, another meeting. So I had to change my mindset of, this is the way of the future. Thank you, Jay, for saying that you prefer, video conference calls. And I'm like, so,
Oh no, I prefer face-to-face, but I mean, I use that technology.
And so, using the technology, I had to grow up, because I wasn't a technology person. And so submitting proposals online and going through RFPs online, it was quite challenging. So when you're used to going to a site and walking the site and looking at the dirt and looking at the area around, that wasn't happening. We had to look at a screen and a slide and saying, well, this is the building we want. And I'm like, okay, the surrounding area was important to me. Connecting and understanding what the client, even though they told us what they wanted, but being there in person to walk it and to get the feel for what their excitement is about, the upcoming construction procurement, that was a challenge. And I think it was just a challenge across the construction industry. So now things are getting back, but I don't think it would ever be like everyone said. I don't think it would be like it used to be. I need to just get used to, we're going to go through an RFP online, and then if you need to go visit the site, then you can. But my client base is glad that we can have a conversation face to face now, and they limit themselves, and it has to be scheduled. So it's just working around those challenges where I used to could fly just and say I'm here. It's no more like that. I need to tell them that I'm coming, and it's a set schedule. But I'm looking forward to the market opening back up. I'm looking forward to just growing in the various arenas that we work in. So did we have a downturn? No, it was pretty steady work, which I was glad about. And my team actually said to me, because of the contracts that we hold, they were able to keep their jobs. And so none of my people were laid off. That was never an option. Or downsizing was never an option for my team for particular contracts that we work. So I think we did some growth. We were able to, word of mouth from some of our other clients allowed us to procure more work as well. So I'm looking forward to just going to conferences. I think I have one coming up. Actually, I did one in Florida, which was amazing. To be in a room with 1,000 people, it was amazing. Yeah. And so I'm looking forward to the upcoming conferences as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to growth, but I'm looking forward to that human connection, because we are made to connect to people.
Exactly. Brian, do you have the last word before we go to Q&A? Do you have anything you'd like to add before I summarize?
I'd just like to share that, I know it was a very, very tough year for many businesses, but we had the best year that we've ever had in 14 years in business. And it was simply based upon a few things. One, we build relationships with our clients. We don't just deliver something and say thank you and walk out the door. We build true relationships. And those relationships mattered last year more than any year ever. We actually had program managers, account supervisors, vice presidents call our clients every week just to say, hello, how are you? How's your family doing? How can we help you? Is there something? And what we found is that as things progress and people added to the services that we're offering, because we were there for them. They'd ask questions. Can you do this? What do you think about this? And it amounted to what it amounted to was growth for our company. And growth for our company meant that we gave more back to our community than we've ever given. And we're a giving company. So those things work hand in hand.
Well, thank you. I just want to quickly, before we open for Q&A, just say a couple of points that I heard all over. First of all, the very skills that you acquired in the military make you a successful business person. Showing up matters. Building relationships and trusting matters. Having mitigation strategies matter. Partnering, grassroots, going out to the grassroots to get people to like your product and your service. Understanding the culture of a corporation, coaching, understanding the needs of the customer, the industry, and if they're regulated, and shifts, the evolution of things. What a dynamite panel you have just exceeded in terms of the depths of the knowledge and what you were able to share. So now we want to open this up for Q&A. And Mimi will handle this. So Mimi, let me turn it back over to you.
Thank you. I'd just like to say, Tabitha, from Lowe's has just in the chat. If you've noticed, if you're not certified and you'd like to get certified, you can reach out to us at NOVOBA. And there is a Lowe's grant fund. So it is on a first come, first serve. So we can get you certified if you are not currently certified. Nancy Connor would be happy to answer any questions, or Matt or myself. But we are open now for comments, questions, suggestions, and also a big thank you to you, Georgia, and of course, Tabitha, for sponsoring, and our panelists. What a phenomenal group. Thank you all very much. This was absolutely amazing. Eddie, my email is in the chat. It is mimi, mimi.lohm, LOHM @novoba.org. If you could go ahead and send an email there. I'd love to invite you all, if there are no comments or questions, I'd love to invite you all to our Marching Forward Mondays. If you've not participated, once you're certified as a VBE or SDVBE, you can participate. It's really like a pitch competition, but there's no set opportunity. This is really getting to know our corporations. So they will get to know you by your 7-minute pitch, and then there's a Q&A session at the end. We also have corporations, our corporate allies participate once a month. And so the corporates do the same thing. They have 15 minutes to talk about how to do business with their company. And then we also have an education and development segment once a month, but the VBE segment is twice a month. And you can reach out to us if you're interested in getting on the list.
It's Mimi, Demond Crump here. I definitely have a comment. First of all, thank you and Ms. Georgia. And I want to thank NOVOBA for tapping us on the shoulder to be one of the companies to represent what you guys are doing for veterans. You know, we're honored and we're appreciative of this move, and we don't take it for granted. So thank you very much for choosing our company to represent you guys on a panel of this magnitude, and we really appreciate it. And, you know, we can't thank you enough for, you know, tapping us on the shoulder for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We couldn't do it without all of you.
Hey, Mimi.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Tabitha with Lowe's. Just, I know I've dropped some stuff in the chat, but I know it's hard to keep up and really focus and keep up with the chat. I know a lot of you have asked if you could get a copy of this deck and the recording, and Mimi shared graciously, yes, just shoot her an email, let you know if you have interest. Just a special thank you. You know, as you can imagine, to pull this off, it takes a lot of time and effort on different parts. And while we were excited to be able to do this, I sat here and listened at the panel, and it's just amazing information. I think we are in this space, and sometimes as corporate supplier diversity professionals, we forget it's just simple. You know, oftentimes it's just, we don't know what we don't know. And I know a lot of the VBEs are in that same boat, and we take for granted some of the information that we can share that just falls on different ears and can be, you know, a different value to those depending on where they're at in their maturity cycle of their business. So for those of all of you that have dialed in today, taken your time to listen, to learn, to be on the panel, to work behind the scenes to make this possible, all the technology, I know we have glitches, it's not perfect. You know, we roll with the punches. Sometimes the punches are worse than others. So again, just a big thank you. And from Lowe's to all the VBEs, you know, your service to our country, it's invaluable. We can't say thank you enough. Words seem so just inadequate. So from my heart and on behalf of Lowe's, thank you. And thank you to everybody that participated today in some way, shape, or form as an attendee or a panelist, or those at NOVOBA. It's a slim team. They do amazing work. You know, I'm always amazed with just how much they can get accomplished. And it's really through these larger partnerships as well. So if there's anything we can ever do to try to help or come together, like Katie mentioned, you know, we love to share ideas, to share suppliers if they're performing well. So for example, if you knock on my door and I can't, I'm unlike Jay, I don't have just the bandwidth to be able to talk with everybody, But we do have some, information that we share through auto responses that can direct you to our portal to make sure you get registered. We are diligently working behind the scenes to connect our buyers to those portals to search the databases. So getting certified, remaining certified, getting in those databases, know that those supplier diversity professionals, we're out there beating the pavement looking for you. And while you may not know it, we're aligning your capabilities and your scope and the details that you've shared through registrations and your capabilities information. We're getting that in front of our buyers. And while we don't have the capacity to engage one-on-one while they're considering, know that silence or no news is not always bad news, right? So we ask you to just keep the faith, be diligent. I think Barbara said it well too. It's taken 5 years in some situations, and I'm a hugger too. So when you see me and they release me to come out to some events, you can run up and give me a bear hug. I love it. I love the energy. I call myself an extra large extrovert. I get my energy to do my job from these types of situations, these panels, and this information. So thank each and every one of you. I'll be quiet. I could go on. I don't have an off button. You that know me know that I don't. So just a big, big thank you.
Thanks, Tabitha. And she truly means that. Go give her a big hug. Build your relationships. It will be nice to be out and see a lot of you that I know and meet new people. But these events are absolutely wonderful. These supplier diversity folks become your family. Even if you're not doing business with them at the time, they're pulling to get you business. They can't promise it, and it may take a long time, but they become your family. And I miss all of you and being in person with all of you. So thanks for being here. Again, huge thank you to Georgia, Tabitha, our corporate panel, our VBEs. Anything that you guys need, any questions, comments, suggestions, my email is there. The VBE help email is there. So thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful end of the week.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, take it easy.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.